Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shergok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at how ReZero shows the grim reality of being isekai and having your natural life basically extended by magic. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my patrons for supporting this channel, as well as say thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Being isekai, aka starting a new life in a new place where everything is new and exciting, where a world brims with opportunity, and where nobody knows you from your past life, is something that appeals to a lot of people, especially if their own situation is not that pleasant to begin with, and you are, for example, an overworked cog in a machine so enormous it would not even notice if your entire office is let go tomorrow, much less so when you yourself break or are replaced, only to make it home into an empty apartment that still cost half of your paycheck. And this makes the idea of an escapist fantasy all the more appealing. A world where everything is better, a world filled with magic, beautiful women, and some sort of advantage that you hold, most often a great ability or power bestowed upon you by some supernatural power, or at least your vast knowledge of the modern world. And this is the construction of a fantasy, a world that is filled with the exact things you want right now, in order to have a fun, happy time and to project yourself onto the blank slate main character. But here's the thing, sooner or later, people are going to notice the obvious cracks in this constructed what-if scenario. How it doesn't make sense that the entire world revolves around just a random person that originally had nothing special about them. And this led us to the deconstruction of the isekai story, because above all else, a medieval fantasy world, where personal strength can easily outclass modern main battle tanks, and where mages can do things that would leave both any medical staff, and any fire department for that matter, in sheer shock and awe, will be one thing for any newly arrival that is not familiar with the rules and regulation of the world, with the language, the culture, and the dangers within it to the extreme. Namely, dangerous to the extreme. And we like to imagine us to be Kirito, to have some sort of innate advantage, or be gifted like Kazuma with an incredibly overpowered blessing that he refused out of petty spite in order to go for the world okayest consolation prize. But why should a random soul that is carried over into another world and reincarnated be someone who gets any power? Why should this overwhelming magical power that is present in the new world not be something that controls the guy who never ever had used magic before in his own life, and who, like Nanahoshi Shizuka for example, lacks any mana of their very own? And this is where we come to ReZero and how Subaru Natsuki's time in this new world deconstructs this archetype of a powerful hero, reincarnated to the new world to save it. First and foremost, he's not in control, not in command of much of magical power. Sure, he is basically immortal thanks to an immortality spell on him that allows him to infinitely restart his life from the last checkpoint, where he was unalived, and then can continue to achieve something, but this is not a power he can turn on and off, not a power he can use, that he is in command of, but something that is done to him. He's under a spell, and he lacks any control over it, other than to work within its confines. And he can't deactivate it, or alter it. He can't predict his next checkpoint, which might also be that he could become, potentially at least, locked between his last save point and his next unaliving. And therefore this time could be so short, and the repetition of the cycle so rapid that he can't do anything other than to suffer. And as hard as this sounds, being able to revive even though you are just a marionette of someone else, of some sort of spell, some sort of curse, it is still an immense superpower, because Subaru's first unaliving at the hand of the side alley thugs is something that would likely be our fate in any fantasy world. And as hard as all of this sounds about being able to revive, even though you are more of a marionette than someone actually in control of yourself, is still something that I would call a superpower, because Subaru's first unaliving at the hand of some friendly side alley guys is something that would likely also happen to us. That would be our fate in a fantasy world where we would be reincarnated as some sort of dude with like no powers or knowledge of the world that you are just in. And again, you clearly don't know your way around. You are unable to actually understand the language. And your clothes would also be a telltale sign that you are not from around here, and would draw a lot of unwanted attention from very unwanted persons. And most likely, you will just be at the wrong time, at the wrong place, or at the right time at the right place from your unaliver's point of views. And after your life ended, this would be it. No justice would be done to them. Most likely, they could even claim that this odd fellow attacked them first, and people would probably believe them, because at court back in medieval Europe, it was not about evidence, as it was about getting enough people to speak on behalf of you, to vouch for you and your personality, that you're a good person, and would never do something like this. And again, you would be completely alone in this new and foreign world. So not even your unaliving would be something that is mourned or avenged. And Subaru, through his connections to Emilia, also shows off something that would be incredibly valuable in any medieval world, the right connections. Because if he hadn't met her, he would be one struggling materially to a very great degree. He would be one of the many commoners, trying to eke out a meager living under very dire circumstances. And the mere fact that he has time to come to terms with his experiences is a luxury he wouldn't have without connections to nobility and perhaps a future queen. And of course, during all of this, he still has to deal with things on a personal level that magic is able to do to him that is just so unnatural that our own mind, our own consciousness has not evolved to handle it. We all of the unaliving and then reviving. It is something that at least we in our world do not have to worry about. And this is something very few stories, aside from stuff like ReZero, shows actually off. So while Subaru is still a fairly meek, powerless isekai protagonist by isekai standards, whose main battle is a mental one and against himself at that, he is still far more powerful than any of us would be without any great blessing from any not so great goddess. And as for our own modern knowledge, most of us would not be able to change the world for a better. We know that there are tiny demons in the dirt, for example, in the air, and even on our skin. And we know that washing our hands with soap after, for example, touching carrion prevents infections. But we don't know how soap is made, or where to get it at a cheap price, cheap enough so that normal people could afford it. And we also wouldn't have the ability to build a microscope to actually prove that microbes exist, or know how to navigate the complex interpersonal relationships most people would have with one another in this world as a complete outsider. Unless we are doing something really specific, we would not know how to recreate most modern amenities and how to make other things that these things are even possible in the first place. For example, we don't know how to build a smartphone in order to play some smartphone games. And we actually don't know if, in a world with magic, where the rules of nature are very obviously different, would even allow for a computer to exist in the same world as in our world. Because, let's face it, electrocuting rock to see pictures is something that sounds much more fantasy than, for example, a black and white tree with silver leaf, or tiny slugs that incorporate algae into their body in order to become basically a self-sustaining solar power plant. And this is still just stuff that exists in our own world. So, we would not even know if our own knowledge would even work out in this fantasy world, if we can even recognize it and understand that there are differences. and how to apply our knowledge to this world. And with that said, now it's your turn. What do you think about ReZero and Subaru, and the things I have just said? Let me know it down in the comment section. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel, and as usual, special thanks to Other, ASK, Bad Guy Ye, Bad Burrito 316, Bezer, Ben C, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Dan Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feral Shivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Huster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch V. Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazer, Merovec, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pantum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Cune Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, Diorg Warboss, Rock Ed Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Zinukai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.